When you have your girls, you're never alone. You get together for coffee, maybe to work out, or just to laugh. We created Hey Girl, just for you. Can't wait for you to join us.
Hey everybody, welcome to Hey Girl. I'm your girl Kim with an E, and this is episode 67. Now, if you're joining us for the first time, I want to let you know that Hey Girl is a safe space where you can share your experiences and be affirmed. Let's face it, life can be complex and sometimes overwhelming. That's why we believe in the power of conversation, because knowing we're not alone is what helps us get through. And you are not alone today because we are here with you. Come on in, hit the like and share button, and tell us how you are doing. Welcome, welcome to all of you. We have a great show in store. And I'm telling you, we are wrapping up our summer fun theme. We are at the end of July, the very last day of the month. I can't believe it's already over. And I don't know about you, but I have definitely had some summer fun. So tell me in the comments, what is your favorite thing about summer? Have you done anything fun this summer, this month? Usually July is when everyone's getting those last minute vacations in and doing all the last minute things before we go back to life, which is the fall season and kids going back to school and all of those things. So let me know how you've been spending your time as we wind down the summer, especially if you've had a chance to do anything fun. So as I said, the month's theme has been summer fun. And the goal here has been for us to, before going back to the grind, get our literal and figurative houses in order in different ways. So, of course, we've been talking with guests about how they have stepped out of their comfort zone and maybe tried some new things, started new businesses. And we've also gotten some good practical tips. So I'm just going to go back through the last few weeks of this month, which again has gone by so fast. I just can't believe it. And remind you of some of the things that we have talked about in case you forgot. But also, if you missed it, you're going to want to go back and pull up some of those past episodes. So the first week of this month, you may remember, we actually did a replay of an episode we did back in January. My good friend Claire was on to talk to us about traveling. I mean, obviously, this is the time to do our traveling, even with COVID. She suggested some ways to do travel safely. And even if we stay within the contiguous United States, there are some beautiful things right here in our country that sometimes make you feel like you're in a different place. So go back and check out that episode if you didn't see it, because she gave some great tips for traveling. And then, of course, the next week we had my friend Darcel on, who, by the way, has her own cleaning business. You may want to check her out on our Hey Girl High Five list. And she, in particular, I felt like that was a great conversation you really should go back and look at, because I know for me, the summer months are the perfect time to kind of do some things around the house that I don't have time to do during the year. And she talked about how we can get our literal space together. And I want to remind you of some of the tips, but I actually I also found on a YouTube channel that I follow, and she was offering some of the same tips that Darcel gave. So I'm going to share them with you again in case you missed them. And one of the first things that she advised is that we learn to say no. How often do you grab those free samples, grab a bunch of those free things that are given out at stores, or maybe you accept the hand-me-downs, or you grab some cheap souvenirs when you're traveling, and then what happens? It becomes clutter in your house. So just say no to the free things unless you have a specific use for them. I think that's a great tip. And then I don't know about you, but I sometimes get overwhelmed with the big job of cleaning and decluttering and organizing. So the tip there is to break up the big job. Don't try to tackle it all at one time. Do a little at a time, and you will be able to be successful without being overwhelmed. Also, resist the urge to fill the empty space. I think this is a great tip because I don't know about you, But sometimes I go into a room and I think, oh, I should put this on the wall, or I should put some tchotchkes on the table, or oh, I need to fill the empty space. But if we're trying to declutter, maybe it's okay for some of those spaces to stay empty, to stay clean. And sometimes when I have cleaned the spaces in my house and had to take things down and move things out, it has felt very refreshing to just not have so much stuff all around. And so maybe that's a sign that some of those things need to just go ahead and go on out. And I don't need to necessarily feel that. And we talked about how that's also kind of a metaphor for our lives, how we sometimes fill our lives with a lot of stuff that's really draining us and not feeding our spirit. So good tip. Also, clean out your closet twice a year. Closets are the places where we stuff all the things that we don't want to think about right now, but taking that at least once or twice a year to just go ahead and pull everything out is a good thing to do. And then the 6-second rule, she says, is deciding what to let go of. Give yourself 6 seconds to ask, do I need it? Do I use it? And do I love it? Quick, think fast. If you can't answer in the affirmative, any of those questions, then it's time for it to go. Get it out of there. Clean that space. And then here's the big one, right? Donate it. Donate the stuff. One man's junk is another man's treasure. But here's what we do, right? We box it all up, bag it all up for giveaway, and then what happens? It goes in the garage, or it goes back in the closet. And you have all these intentions of giving it away, and it never happens. It ends up staying in your space and still not solving the problem with clutter. So actually do it. Just put it on the truck, borrow someone's truck if you have to, and drive it to the nearest Goodwill or thrift store so that someone else can actually benefit from those things that are no longer benefiting you. All right. So who's with me? Who is ready to tackle the big job in small bites and do the work that you need to before we have to go back? Because you're not going to have time once we do go back. Maybe this weekend is the time to tackle those things and just go ahead and get it done. And I know you will feel so much better when you do. And clearing out that clutter and getting our house in order is what will help us to be ready for the things that are coming, with the work and the school and all the things that are going to face us in the fall. So let's get ourselves in that place where we can really, be prepared to do what we need to do. Hey, Yin, I see you there. What's up, Avery? Beach vacations. What are you talking about? Yes, get that sun in while you can. Lisa says she loves the opportunity to travel. Indeed, indeed. Now is the time to do it before we have to get back to the grind. I also want to remind you guys of the last 2 episodes. If you are a bride or know someone who is, both of the last 2 episodes were particularly for you, with Shayla Renee, who has the bridal business, and Franca, who makes beautiful wedding gowns. Shayla also is an event planner, and they both talk about the lessons that they learned as they started their own business, and also offered some tips for those of us who may be planning an event or looking to start a business ourselves. So definitely check out those episodes as well. Good to see you guys here with me. I'm glad you're joining. Don't forget to like and share this live today, particularly if you know someone who is dealing with an autoimmune disorder. Our guest today is going to add to this conversation that we've been having all month. We've been looking outward, at all the things around us, but let's talk today about that inward, that inner being that we need to get well and get healthy and get to a place where we can do what we need to do in the world. Also, before I introduce you to her, I want to remind you of the updated additions to justkim.net. As I told you last week, we have some new downloads, that wallpaper for your cell phone, which is super cute. I have it on my phone and you should get it on yours. Check out the justkim.net. And remember, if you are not able to come on to the live show here on Facebook, or you or a friend isn't on Facebook at all or on here much, that's okay, because we also have our YouTube channel where the replay will be uploaded. So go ahead and follow our YouTube page as well, subscribe, and you'll be able to catch those past episodes and share them with others who you think would benefit. And then I want to remind you about our Hey Girl High Five. I mentioned that before. We are always looking for women owned and Black owned businesses to support so we can add them to our page and get the word out about the work that they are doing. So if you or someone you know needs to be added to that list, send us an email, heygirlfb@gmail.com, so we can give your small business a Hey Girl High Five. All right. I think I covered it all. Did anyone else join that I did not yet say hello to? If you are out there, let me know in the comments what you are doing to gear up for the fall. We're going to talk about that beginning next month. But in the meantime, maybe you are getting some things together around your house or in your life as we come down to the end of summer. So let me introduce to you today our guest. I'm so excited for you to know and for me to get to know better Dr. Karla Montague Brown. She is the founder and CEO of Crown to Soul Wellness, LLC. She is a health and wellness lifestyle coach and speaker. Dr. Brown is a graduate of Oakwood University and Meharry College and spent many years providing medical services as a board-certified family medicine physician. She currently serves as a medical consultant for the state of Tennessee with Disability Determination Services. She is also the author of Overcoming Autoimmunity, One Physician's Step-by-Step Journey to Victory Over Her Chronic Illnesses. Her mission is to encourage, empower, and equip women to take control of their health and create lives of joy, abundance, and holistic wellness. I love that. Besides empowering women to take control of their health, Dr. Brown is also a wife and mother of 2 adult sons. Let's welcome Dr. Karla Montague Brown to Hey Girl. Welcome, Dr. Brown.
Hello. Thank you so much. It's great to be here. Hey, girls.
Hey, girl. I'm so glad you joined us today. And I am really interested in hearing about the work that you do. But first things first, you have to answer the question that everyone has been asked. What is your favorite thing about summer?
I think my favorite thing is summer. I like the warm weather. I like how my skin turns even darker in the summer. And I used to not really like that because you know how those issues are when you're younger.
Yes.
But now it's like I feel like my skin just gets this glow when it is out in the sun. And I just like that the time to travel. We haven't traveled as much because of COVID, but it's usually that time for us and for me to just be able to unwind and go visit, I like the beach. So I like those types of things that it makes me think of vacation, especially growing up. Those were the times we were able to actually go away for vacation. And so that's what I think about. Those are my favorite memories and what I like to do. Just enjoy the sunshine because it really elevates my mood when the sun is out. And so when it gets kind of dreary, I know some people prefer the cooler weather, and I tend to like the warmer weather. So
I 100% agree with you. I am the same way. There is something for the fall as it begins to cool and it's not cold yet, but I agree. The summer, yes, it gets hot, but there is just nothing like the sun, like you said, to boost your mood. And there's absolutely no kind of glow other than the glow you get from being in the sun. It just gives your skin a whole different color. That is true.
Yes. And I don't have to wear a whole lot of clothes. I mean, I still am clothed, but coats and hats and I like to be able to take it off.
I hear you. It's so easy to get dressed, right? You just throw on whatever. Whereas, when it's winter, you got to layer and layer and layer. We traveled recently and it was like, oh, it's so easy to pack. The suitcase was light, wasn't a bunch of heavy boots and coats in there to weigh it down. So yeah, summer is definitely my favorite season.
Yeah, I noticed that when I look through my closet, when I go to the stores and just to see what kind of thing I like, I'm always drawn to the sleeveless. And so I look at it in my closet, I'm like, everything I have is sleeveless. I have very few long sleeves or short sleeves. So I think that's part of it. I like to be able to just be free.
Yeah, I feel that definitely. And, I guess that's probably why we're also in the South. Because only in the South can you wear, sleeveless all the time. That's so funny. And you are in Tennessee, right? That's where you live.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Right outside of Nashville, not far from Nashville. I work in Nashville with the consulting, but we're right outside of Nashville.
Nice. I love Nashville. So I would love for you to share with us a little bit of your background. I know that you're a doctor and you've been practicing medicine for many years. So can you just talk a little bit about that, what you have been doing prior to the current work that you're doing?
Okay, sure. I'll go back to, say, when I was about maybe 10 years old. That's when I really knew, or really started to have the desire to become a physician. I was about 10 or 11 years old. I didn't really know any doctors who looked like me, meaning African American or female. And so my first role model for being a physician was a television doctor, an older white gentleman named Marcus Welby. I don't know how old anybody is who's watching, but this was in the 60s. And Marcus Welby, MD, was the show that came on, and I just fell in love with that show and how he was as a physician. And fast forward, I like I said, I knew that I wanted to be a physician from the time I was about 10 or 11. And so that's what I pursued, and went to Oakwood, got my degree in biology, went to Meharry Medical College and got my medical degree. And so for almost 20 years, I practiced as a family practice physician, doing what I wanted to do, seeing the whole family, babies. I've delivered babies. I've seen them from the cradle to the grave, as so to speak, the geriatric population. But one of the things that really, even through all of that, and even growing up, I was always interested in health education and preventive health care. And when I was a young physician, a new physician, I would always ask my patients, well, what, about their lifestyle. And if they came in with hypertension or diabetes or whatever illness, I would say, well, you need to eat a better diet or a healthier lifestyle, not really understanding that I was not really giving them the tools or really telling them how, just to say, eat better. And I thought I was doing my job, which I was, but and a lot of times my patients say, okay, doc, sure.
Yeah, but what does that mean?
What does that mean? And it was a couple of years, I guess. And then I started really understanding that I need to make it easier for people, because I started myself on my own journey of trying to be healthy. And initially it was because I started having children, and I was a late bloomer as it comes to having children. I was in my 30s with my first one, like 32, and then 38 with my second. So I really started thinking, well, I don't want to be old and they're having to push me in a wheelchair. So my initial reason for wanting to be healthy myself, the real why, was for my children. And then it was as I started getting older and seeing patients getting older and having all these problems, I was afraid of being sick. Yeah. And then, so it's been a journey. It's been a journey of doing things, but that why that really propelled me to fully embrace and adopt a holistic wellness lifestyle was realizing who I am to God, and that I am a child of the King, child of royalty, and I wanted to take care of my body. If I'm asking God to dwell in me, how dare I pollute me? How dare I not clean myself out, meaning my mind, my spirit, and my body physically? And so that really was the impetus for me to even move forward even further on my own personal journey. And then as I have adopted and grown in my lifestyle, I have decided, or it's my passion to share that with others, especially other women and
Mm-hmm.
other women who look like me, because so many times we're so busy doing for everybody else, taking care of the
Mm-hmm.
kids, and then as we get older, maybe our parents get older, so we're doing a lot. We're busy in church, we're busy on our jobs, and we
Mm-hmm.
forget to take care of ourselves. We
Yeah.
end up neglecting ourselves, and then when stuff happens, we don't know what to do. When we get sick, what do I do? How do I participate in
Mm-hmm.
my healing process? Of course, I always encourage people to see their medical providers, but what is my role? What is the role of me as an individual? So I think it's important that we take control of our health, not meaning that we know everything or that we don't listen to others, but being in control of the choices that we make and how we want to live our lives. So that's kind of the background for where I came and where I am now.
Yeah. So I want to backtrack a little bit on a few things that I heard you say, because immediately my question, the question that comes to mind is, okay, what then were the limitations of your medical degree? Because you talked about the reason for going into medicine, but then even while you were practicing medicine, there obviously was some limitations to what you had studied and learned and done as a medical professional, because you still had to search outside of that to come to what you're doing now. And you said that, in order to be healthy, in order to be your best self, there are all these other things that need to be done. So then what is it that you were doing as a medical doctor that was still not enough, or that medical professionals, do that doesn't cover the kind of health that you're talking about?
So I think I know what you're asking. And so for me, and let me just put this disclaimer out there right now. I'm not a basher of traditional medicine, because I am a physician. Mm-hmm. But the methods that we are taught, or how we are taught, is to treat disease. Mm-hmm. And so I learned a lot of pathology and what medications to prescribe for certain illnesses. Mm-hmm. Most of the time that doesn't cure the illness, especially if it's a chronic illness. And so for me, the limitations came in that, and I still believe that there are times when we need to use medication and the traditional route, but I became more conflicted because I wanted to help educate people on how they could take care of themselves, some of the things that they could do to either prevent some of these illnesses or to reverse them. And that didn't necessarily always go along with the prescription. And it was just kind of hard for me to continue to do it that way when I was really wanting to do something else, especially in the model of, if I'm assigned to different insurance companies and things like that, sometimes you have to follow a certain protocol. And if you're coming in and you have hypertension, and I'm sending my records in, and I'm telling you things to eat or not eat, or things to do naturally, but I haven't given you any medication to help you. Now, if you go away and not do those things, and I still haven't given you any medication, then it's kind of my fault. That's kind of what they call malpractice based on that model. And so I was just more and more drawn to really wanting to help people take control and know what they could do. And I was just limited in that framework, in that time space of how we see patients in that model. And it was just harder to do it. And a lot of people don't want the natural route. And so there's still room for all of it, because if I were to have a heart attack right now, yes, take me to the emergency room and give me the medications, and then let me do those other things to either help myself. So that's kind of where it was for me. I just had this burning desire to really help people, and it's hard. It can be difficult to make lifestyle changes.
I was curious. You said that if you were, from an insurance standpoint, if you were to put in the notes that this person came in with hypertension and I advised them to change their diet, that would be seen as malpractice if you didn't
No,
apply, if
no.
you didn't
If that
prescribe a
was all,
medication.
if that was all that I was doing, I think it's not good if you don't tell people that. But if that's all I was doing, and you have these certain protocols for if somebody has hypertension, and I'm just using that as a simple example. You do diet, lifestyle, but then there are tiered medications that you start them on this type of medication, or if they're Black, or if they have these type of problems, then you might need to add this medication. So if none of these things are done, and then your patient has a bad outcome,
Yeah.
it's like, well, you
So
just told them to eat some greens.
right,
And
right. So you have to do both. You're saying the person has to take the medication and do the lifestyle changes.
right. Yes. And so, and there's still so much room for that model. It was just harder for me to really get uh, into more detail and really get, I guess, the scope of how I wanted to do as far as the health education aspect of it.
It seems like the medical profession is designed, as you said, to treat disease. And so then it comes in conflict with holistic medicine, which is to prevent disease, right? So so
Yeah.
you're talking yourself out of a job basically if you're only telling people how to prevent disease, but you're in a profession that basically is there,
Yeah.
its
And
whole
and
existence is to treat
and
disease.
to be honest, what I realize is that there still will be a need for both, because it's hard to make lifestyle changes.
Mm-hmm.
Even when I mean, it's still a journey for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been on this road for a long time. So and I'm still learning. Still, we are creatures of habit, and so you have to get people where they are and then help to move them along. And sometimes, many times, they will need the other stuff,
Okay.
because and a lot of times people are not there in their minds yet of that's how they want to do things. There are a lot of people who just refuse to take medication, and so they need to know what they can do. And then some are like, I've had patients, I would let them know your blood sugars, really going up, and would doc just give me another pill? They weren't interested in,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
yeah, it's
Well,
it's
well, yeah, the pill is a quick fix too. Like you see the immediate result of taking a pill or being on medication, whereas the lifestyle change is a much slower
it's a much slower,
transformation.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it takes discipline, and it
Hmm.
takes knowledge. You need to know what to do. And the one of the things that really helped me to really, I guess, come to grips with doing the medication part and doing the other, the lifestyle, or integrating them. And now there's more people now going toward functional medicine, which is now
Hmm.
being more accepted of lifestyle changes. But I can remember, as a resident physician, and I was working at the VA, the Veterans Administration Hospital, and having patients coming in because of lung cancer, and would get a lung taken out knowing that they were heavy smokers, and this is the reason you have this lung cancer. And 2 days after surgery, they're in the smoking room smoking. And it was just mind-boggling to me, because I was young, I was still in training, and I'm like, what are you doing? We just took your lung out. But then I realized that people are where they are, and you have to meet them where they are. And some people will never, they're going to look, I've done this all my life. This is, I'm going to drink this all my life. I'm going to eat this all my. And so
Yeah.
you just have to come to grips with that and know that people are where they are. But there are a lot of people now who are more willing to make the sacrifices that need to be made so that they can live holistically and not be so bound by the medications. Even if they have to take some, maybe they don't have to take as many, or,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the hope, prayer, that
Yeah.
people will know how to take control and be not just reactive, but
Proactive.
proactive. Mm-hmm.
Hmm. So you specifically focus on autoimmune disorders, is that right? Or is that only part of it?
That's part of it, and I can share with you why I emphasize that so much, and that's just been in the last 2 years, because initially when I started Crown to Soul Wellness, it was just for people who wanted to know how to have a healthy lifestyle, and if they were dealing with any type of chronic illness. And I still work with those type of people. Sometimes it's somebody just wanting to lose weight, so they may not really have an autoimmune disorder. But about 2 years ago, I was diagnosed with 2 autoimmune disorders. And it was really bad. I mean, I didn't know if this was okay. I mean, I went from, and this started in January of 2019. I was healthy, fine, and I was one of these, I was 57 at the time, and I was like a healthy, vibrant, teaching health and living my life. I felt great, walking and doing the thing. And then in about over a 2-week period of time, I just became very fatigued, aching from my neck down to the bottoms of my feet, but my whole body hurt. My joints, the muscles, I could barely get out of bed. I would drag myself to work. I mean, I had to kind of cut my work schedule. And I knew, and I was the kind, I'm doing all the things that I know to do to, my natural remedies and all of this stuff. And I'm like, I'm not getting better.
Did you have any idea what was wrong? Were you able to diagnose yourself?
No, I knew something was wrong. At first, I thought I had just overdone it. I had helped my son, and I had helped my niece with her kids. That she and her husband were going out of town, and she had a new baby and 2 other little kids. So I'm thinking, well, maybe I lifted the baby too much this weekend. And my husband and I laughed about it. He said, "Oh yeah, that's what it was. So that's how it started, but it just kept getting worse. And then my skin started bruising, and I'm like, okay, it's time for me to go see what's, something is not right. And so I do medical consultant work for disability determination. So one of the other doctors, I was sharing with her what was going on. So we're writing a list. She's internal medicine, I'm family practice. So she's like, well, when you go to the doctor, make sure they do this, this, this. So I go to my doctor with this list, and we went to school together, so she wasn't offended. She's like, yeah, we'll do this, and then we're gonna do this too. And so when she called me, she said, well, Karla, we're gonna have to send you to a neurologist. It looks like you might have lupus. And when she told, when I looked at my numbers and knowing the symptoms that I had, I'm like, okay. So she referred me out, but it took a long time for me to get that appointment. So in the meantime, I started, praying. I was the kind of person who I wasn't ashamed. I mean, and people could see that I was sick. I was starting to go down rapidly. So even I was very active in my church. So the people in church could see that I'm dragging, I'm losing weight. And so to make a long story short, I finally got to the rheumatologist, but in the meantime, I had started acting as if, if this is lupus, what can I do? So I already was doing a lot of natural things. I found this other book that a friend of mine told me about, read this lady's book, and she was a physician, and she was saying some of the same things that I was doing. So that kind of gave me a little more motivation. So by the time, and I told my doctor, I was like, look, I don't want to take this medicine that you want to give me. One, I had a bad reaction to medication in the past. It ended up in the emergency room. So for years, probably since like 2010, I had stopped taking medication for the most part. If I had a headache, I would not take medicine. So I had pretty much for about 10 or 11 years had not taken any medication. And so she understood, and she's like, well, just do what you're doing. And so I was still feeling bad. By the time I got to the rheumatologist, I was feeling better, but still not good. And she wanted to put me on an even higher level of medication that all the side effects, I was already having those symptoms. I'm like, I won't know if it's the medicine or if it's the illness. I said, but I'm doing some things that I feel like it's helping me. I'm not all the way better, but I am better. So she was reluctant, but she said, okay, we'll monitor you, do what you're doing. But if you get worse, you need to come back in. So I'm like, okay, fine. That's all. That's what I had prayed for, a doctor who would at least work with me, understood where I was coming from. Went back, my numbers were better, not great, but a lot better, and I was feeling better. A few months later, I went back, and so the nurse practitioner said, well, if your numbers are still bad, she really wants you to take the medicine. I said, okay, we'll see. In my mind, I'm thinking, no, but okay, go ahead and do the labs. It came back and everything, it was negative. The test that had been positive, it was now negative. And so this was, I guess, about 11 months later. And so she's still monitoring me, and she's stopped pushing the medications on me. But I had to be proactive and take an active part. And I couldn't just say, okay, Lord, heal me. I did pray for that. I was wanting to be healed by the touch of the garment. That was my prayer. Like, Lord, I want to wake up tomorrow and be just healed. Right. And it didn't happen like that. But I really think that God allowed me to go through it that way so that I could help somebody else. And from a standpoint of really understanding the fear involved, the process. And it was just like the Lord saying, Karla, I'm taking you through a process, and I got you. And I need you to be able to help somebody else.
So I'm curious, because I know there are people who are listening who are going to say, yeah, I'm going to tell the doctor, I'm not taking my medicine. I'm going to just drink my teas and eat my vegetables. And I hear you, and I understand. And you began by saying, there's a time and a place for everything, right? Yes. So how do you strike that balance for those people who are listening, who are like, oh yeah, I'm gonna throw out all my medicines and I'm just gonna drink tea? You know what I'm saying? Like, at what point do you know and you would advise for the natural methods, as opposed to the medical path? Because I feel like there needs to be sort of a balance. There's going to be people that are going to do the opposite, do the extreme, and could potentially get into trouble.
Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that and bringing that up, because I do want to say, do not just throw your medicines out and say, I'm going to do this, because you have to know what you're doing. You can't just start nilly-willy saying, I'm going to take herbs, and because a lot of those things are manufactured too. So I do believe, and I was in contact with my medical provider, and my thought the whole time was, okay, and that's what I prayed for, a doctor who would work with me so that I could get the monitoring. And she said, okay, if things go the wrong way, and I'm like, okay,
that's important.
So it's important to make sure that you are, because those things need to be monitored. And she told me, she said, well, there's really no cure. And I understood that. I've read the medical books. I've taken care of people with autoimmune disorders. And she said, but it could stay the same. It could progress to one of these other conditions, or it could go into remission. So I started praying for the remission, but I wasn't just praying. I did read other books and things that I could do, but I was still being monitored, and I'm still being monitored by my physicians. I still go to my family medicine. I still go to my rheumatologist. And when I was having some other issues, they sent me to a gastroenterologist. I've even been to the psychiatrist, because a lot of times with any type of illness, especially a chronic illness, you can have some emotional and mental issues that go along with that. I mean, the body is the body. It's the mind, body, and the spirit. So definitely I don't want anyone to go away from this talk saying, well, this doctor didn't take the medicine, but I knew that there might be times when I needed to, and there have been times when I have taken medication. But while doing that, still trying to learn and then implement. And it's a process. It's a ongoing process, because sometimes you don't feel like eating right, or sometimes you may not even know that you're eating something, or whatever it is, whatever the trigger is. I really don't even know what triggered mine, because I was doing what I thought was healthy. There were some things that I did have to maximize because I was still eating some processed foods, even though I was plant-based. And so for my part of the journey, and everybody's different, but for me, I had to leave the processed stuff alone. So those, I won't name any brands, but all those, different burgers and this and that, because I don't like to cook. So I was like, well, it don't have meat in it, or this doesn't have dairy in it, but hey, it's got stuff that probably helped to trigger. So I don't really know what the triggers were for me, but I did have to learn something. I didn't just, I'm not taking medicine and then you have nothing, because and I think God allowed me to go through it that way, because if I had gotten to the rheumatologist sooner, I probably would have taken the medication. But by the time, it was like 6 weeks before I was able to see the rheumatologist. And I felt like what I was doing was work. Yeah, it was work. And then she was willing. She said, well, okay, I see what it was when you went to your primary care. So keep doing what you're doing, but we're going to keep monitoring it. So I'm still in touch with my doctors. And so I don't want anyone to just throw away your medicines. You may be able to come off of them at some point, but you have to put a process in place first, and then, then do that.
Yeah, I think that's really important. So basically doing it in conjunction with your medical professional and keeping that, being transparent about those things that you're doing. So let's get specific now. Like this month is about, practical tips for living and enhancing our life. If there are those out there who are dealing with autoimmune disorders in particular, what are some of the things that you would advise them to do? What were some of the things that you put into place during that 6-week period before going to the doctor that you think was helpful, that might be helpful for others as well?
Okay, so let me start by saying the first thing I did was, of course, pray. But I'm one of those kind that it ain't just prayer. It's like prayer, Lord, show me what to do. Show me the people that I need to surround myself with. Show me the materials, and then give me the power to do whatever it is you're showing me. And so for me, like I said, I was already plant-based, but I had to really adopt a whole foods type of diet with, a lot of green stuff, raw and cooked. I'm not a raw-tarian or anything like that, but I did start eating a lot more fresh foods that were raw. I eat a lot more fruit now, which I was eating fruit before, but now I'm more intentional about eating a variety. So I color the plate with the vegetables and with the fruits, drinking plenty of water, a lot of the things that people probably have heard a lot, and it sounds simple, but when you start trying to do it, it can be difficult, because sometimes we're addicted to sugar, we're addicted to salt, and these might be things that are plant-based, but we also eat a lot of processed foods. So for me, I had to start preparing food myself so that I knew what was in it. And it was difficult for me. It was a challenge for me because I don't like to cook. So they kind of forced me to eat more raw, because it was like, okay, well, I need some green stuff, but I don't feel like cooking it. So I just had a big salad, which it's actually good for you. And my salads are like hearty. They're not just some iceberg lettuce and a piece of tomato. When I was growing up, that was salad, and I hated salad. But now I had to start looking at food differently. And the other thing that helped me, and this is not so much the physical part of it, but the mental part of it. I had to bombard my mind with positivity. I had to remove stuff that was negative, because I was already, my mind would go down that rabbit hole of, am I getting ready to die? Am I going to get well? Am I going to have to stop working? All of this, because I really could not. We were in the middle of a move from one house to another house. I couldn't help my family move. And so I don't know what, some stuff got thrown away that I probably didn't want thrown away. Some stuff made it to the new house that I'm like, we didn't need this, but I couldn't help. So for almost a year, I didn't even know where stuff was in the house. I couldn't even go upstairs in my house. And So, but yeah, the nutrition aspect was very important. So I really would tell people who may be struggling to make up in your mind that you're just going to have to make some changes, especially if you're wanting to do it and not have to be on a lot of medications. One of the reasons that I was, like I said, the reason that I was fearful of the medication, it was more so because I had some bad reaction to medication. And so I was afraid. I mean, even when I had my second son, I was afraid I'm like, don't give me the epidural. And I didn't like pain or anything, but I had a bad reaction from some medicine in the dentist's office. It ended up in the emergency room. And so they gave me a little something to kind of help with the pain, but I'm like, I'm scared because if that happens again, I probably won't be, I just was afraid. And so that was really a big part of my reason for wanting to try other things first, but I was always telling them, look, if it gets to that, now, if I went to the hospital and they say, well, you getting ready to die, I'm like, give me something, give me whatever it might save my life, and then let me start to do the process of reversing. So I think that was kind of the big thing for me, really being intentional about what I put in my body, and in the process now of learning the things that I can put on my body, because our skin absorbs stuff. So so that's something that I'm still searching out. So a lot of the perfumes kind of stuff because I became sensitive to it. I couldn't, I had to kind of change the stuff I clean with because it would, and I had never had problems like with asthma or anything like that before. But after all of this, I realized that I became more sensitive to different smells and stuff like that. And so I used to love to burn scented candles. I'm like, okay, I guess I better do essential oils now, get me a diffuser. And that hadn't bothered me, but and I have these nice, I love scented candles that just, but it would just it started to irritate me.
Yeah. So what kinds of things do you do with your business, Crown to Soul? What are the services that you offer?
Okay. Right now I'm focusing on private coaching. So I have a what you call my signature offering is a 90-day overcome autoimmunity private coaching program. And so I walk through and help the client through basically the 11 steps or the 11 principles that helped me, that I was very intentional about, and just kind of helping them craft a nutrition plan that's customized for their needs, as well as a mindset, that's huge, kind of dealing with a mindset for wellness, because and a lot of times people are afraid to say how they feel because of the stigma with, emotional or mental challenges. But it's real. And so we kind of deep dive into that, and just kind of helping them craft the nutrition plan that will help to overcome the inflammation. One of the big things about in most of the autoimmune disorders, even though there are about 80 that are known, and they're not exactly the same, but the underlying problem is this inflammation. The body is attacking itself. And so any part of the body can be affected. So when we attack that, when we try to deal with the inflammation and then get the body to where it's functioning properly, then a lot of times those illnesses can be either reversed or reduced to where hopefully you won't need as much medication. And maybe in some cases you may be able to do without the medication, but you start from where you are and then, kind of graduate. So that's mainly and I do workshops for organizations, classes like master classes, but my main offering, as far as the one-on-one, is the private coaching.
So I know that I've heard there are particular foods that are helpful for combating that inflammation. Do you want to talk about some of those foods specifically that you recommend to your clients to add to their diet?
And I'll talk about the ones that I recommend, because these are the ones that I've used. There are probably others, but I try to share with people either what I've actually done or maybe seen that has worked for somebody else. But Definitely the one of the things that I started with, and I call it my green drink, and my kids tease me about it because they say it smells like grass. And he said, "Mommy, no." My younger son said, "Oh, Mommy, you drinking that lawnmower drink?" He said it smells like freshly cut grass. But I use a lot of kale, celery. In my little green drink concoction is kale, celery, cucumber, parsley. So those are the green items. And then lemon, I'll squeeze a lemon, turmeric and ginger. So those are the main, that was like the first recipe that I started using when I was just trying to figure things out. And it was a recipe that somebody gave me. And, then we're looking at some of the other, like I said, this physician who had written a book, and that was kind of similar to what she had done, wasn't exactly the same. So I felt like, well, at least I have some, not just making up stuff. And so that was a big thing. But your green leafy vegetables are important. Turmeric and ginger are, and even now they have like the supplements and the pills. So I don't really use those. I know a lot of people do, and sometimes some physicians now even recommend that. But I just started using the root. I would do the actual ginger root and the turmeric, make a tea with that, or put it in my smoothie. So that was probably the main thing that I started with, but then drinking plenty of water. I started also doing some hydrotherapy because with my illnesses, and they diagnosed me with inflammatory arthritis and undifferentiated connective tissue disorder, which is kind of like a precursor to some of the others. And so I was just achy all over it. And so if you've never, people who've gone through it understand, but even as a physician, and I had been tired from maybe being on call or something like that, it was nothing compared to this type of fatigue. I was waking up tired. I would, get out the shower, out of the tub, and would have to lie down before I put my clothes on. It was horrible, but it gave me a greater compassion for people who are going, when they say, "Oh, I'm just so fatigued." I understand what that means now.
Now you know how they feel.
Now I know exactly. It's not like, "Oh, I'm tired from working all day." It's like,
it's a different kind of tired.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that you're both a medical professional and someone who practices holistic health, because you are able to bring those two experiences together, the knowledge from both arenas together. And I really appreciate that you're sharing with everyone how important it is to not abandon one or the other, basically to find a way to join the two in improving your health. So I'm curious to know how you're feeling now. How long did it take for the green lawnmower drink to start feeling, kicking in and kind of helping you to feel a little better? And how are you doing today, considering that you started this journey 2 years ago?
Yeah. So I'm feeling so much better today, and I actually have a real-time testimony that I'm going to share in a minute. But when I first got sick, I was, feeling good, and I just started losing weight. And I've always been kind of small, but I was muscular and, it was a healthy but small. I lost about 30 pounds. So I went from like 118 pounds to like 90 pounds. It was hard. I should have sent you those pictures, but I didn't. So I have some before, when I was really looking bad, and I looked like a refugee from, somewhere.
Wow.
But I was eating. But anyway, so I went from there. So I started feeling better. So I guess when they told me what they call the ANA titer, the serum ANA titer, that's a marker for inflammation. That was the test. They said, if it's still positive, we really probably should put you on some medication. So that test came back negative like in November. So this was from like January to November where that test came back negative, meaning good. So I had started feeling better. I was able to start back walking a little bit, but because my husband was having to help me get in and out of the car, I couldn't walk up the stairs in my house. But it got to the point where I started being able to walk a little bit in my neighborhood. Now I'm able to walk in my neighborhood. I've gained my weight back. I'm back up to like 120, which is kind of where I want to stay. So I feel, I'm getting some muscle tone. I've actually started doing working with a coach to do some strengthening because I had lost muscle tone. It was bad. And so the real-time testimony that I wanted to share, my husband and I have now been walking in the neighborhood, and we may walk about 1.5 miles pretty much every day. We drove down to Memphis on yesterday, and our car broke down on the interstate. So I called a cousin who, I guess we were about 1 hour or so, maybe 1.5 hours from Memphis. And so I was like, look, we're on the side, we're broke down. Can you come get us? And he said, I'm on my way. So we had gotten off so the exit was like maybe 2 miles away. And he said, well, Karla, do you think you can walk? And I'm like, yeah, I got my tennis shoes in the middle of walking. I just,
praise God.
You were like, praise God, because I was thinking 2 years ago, I would not have been able to do this. And so it was probably like a 3-mile walk.
Yeah.
So I was more worried. I wasn't worried about me not being able to do it. I was worried about, let's make sure we're way off on the shoulder so a truck won't hit us. I was able, and I got there, and I was like, I just said, thank you, God. This is a real, man.
That just goes to show. Yeah, that just goes to show what a difference.
Yeah, because I could not walk in my neighborhood. I could barely walk to the car. But we started, and I just want to encourage you, just start where you are. When I started back, before I got sick, I was lifting maybe about 20 pounds, which was fine for me. I don't want to be bulky. I just wanted tone. I had to start back with a 1 pound weight. Now I'm up to 10 pounds that I can kind of do, but just so don't, I just want to encourage whoever may be suffering. God will provide. He can heal. He promised that, if we do our part, and in the verse, and I can't quote it completely, but, if you humble yourself and pray, if my people, the thing that says, and turn from your wicked way. So like whatever that wicked way is, for me, it was like processed foods. I don't know what else, and then my mindset. And so I just want to encourage you wherever you are, but that was what was on my heart yesterday as I was walking, thinking that I would not have been able to do this 2 years ago. But because we had been walking every day, just kind of doing it, I was able to do it. And I wasn't even out of, I was good. We're on the interstate walking. So I just want to encourage you, there's hope for, y'all, I thought I was going to die. I really thought that was, so it was, that's where I was. And it wasn't until I said, okay, Lord, have your way, your will. Cause I was like resisting. Lord, if it's your will for me to die, I don't want your will to be done. I'm like, I can't pray that prayer, but I had to pray. I had to get to the point of praying, Lord, your will be done. And however you want to use me, if it's to just still praise your name as I go to my sleep, let me do that. But if you're allowing me to go through this so I can get close to you, which I believe that's one of the reasons, but I also believe the other reason is so that I could be a more effective witness for somebody else who is going through, because of, I can share with them from really knowing, not just the book knowledge, but yes, I understand that fatigue. I understand that fear, but I also understand who God is and what he's done for me. And as the song says, what he's done for others, he'll do for you. What he's done for me, he can do it for you.
Yeah. Oh man, that's such a great testimony. No, this is the place to do it. Let the tears fall.
God is good. I just praise him.
Yeah. Indeed. I love your story because it literally encompasses everything. Like I said, you have the medical experience, you've done you do the holistic health, but you also emphasize the mental aspect and the spiritual aspect, which is all a part of improving our health. And I think many times we abandon one for the other. We think, oh, let me just take the medicine, and we abandon the eating, or we eat real well, but we don't
Or you up all
exercise,
night.
or we don't pray, and so,
Yeah.
there's all of those things, because I think that we as humans want to feel as though we're in control. And so, oh, I'm going to do this, this, and this to make myself well. When the reality is, what you said was to begin first with the surrender, right?
Yes.
Surrendering
Yes.
our will for His, and then seeing where He leads us in terms of what to
Absolutely.
do to improve our health. And so I think that covers it all right there. That is a beautiful testimony. And for those of you who are watching, definitely check out Dr. Brown's book and her contact information. We're going to put in the comments. How else can they find you, Dr. Brown? You're on Facebook,
Yes,
Instagram.
I'm on Facebook,
Twitter.
Instagram at Karla Montague Brown, on LinkedIn,
Okay.
Karla Montague Brown, MD. And then my website is Crown to Soul Wellness, and that's soul, SOLE, and meaning from the crown of your head to the sole of your foot and all that's in between. So taking care of the mind, the body, and the spirit, but it's crowntosoulwellness.com.
Awesome. So definitely check her out. I'm going to say again, thank you for being here and for sharing your story and the services that you offer. And I wish you good health, continued good health as you go on from here. So we're going to go to our scripture, which is exactly that. It is from 3 John 2, and it says, "Dear friend, I pray that all goes well for you. I hope that you are as strong in body as I know you are in spirit." And that indeed is my prayer for you. I know that's Dr. Brown's prayer for you as well. That is my prayer for her, that we be in good health, body, mind, and soul. And so I think this was a perfect way to close out the month, as we have talked about getting our literal house in order and also our spiritual house in order, so that we can face the challenges that inevitably will come. So I hope that you were blessed by today's show, and I hope that you will join us again next week. We're kicking off a brand new theme in the month of August. It's going back to school, or going back to whatever it might be. And we're going to try to figure out what that's going to look like. What are the challenges that we are likely to face as things start to open up in this pre-COVID new Delta variant environment? We're going to try to sort through all of those things. We have a great lineup for you. Jana Peterson will be our guest next week to talk about mental health. The week after that, we have the super teacher, Ebony Holland, who will be here to talk about your kids and school and how to best educate them, particularly as they're coming out of this COVID environment. Marissa Leslie is a psychiatrist for children. She'll be joining us the 21st. And then we'll close out the month with Summer Wood and my friend Melanie Williams, both who work in the school system from different perspectives. One is a principal and one is a school counselor. So all of these women that are going to be joining us next month will have great insight into what this going back is going to look like and how we can handle it. Those of us who are parents, maybe some of us who are students, whatever the case may be. At the end of the day, it's all about knowing that you're not alone. We're in this thing together. So hang in there. Have a good week. Squeeze out the last little bit of summer fun that you can. And we'll see you again next time.